outside? Should I run and hide? How do I take my company worldwide? Do you love the law? Did you watch Hee-Haw? What's the weirdest thing that you ever saw? What's it like in court? Favorite sport? Can you help with my book report? Is my hair too long? Am I right or wrong? And do you mind if I sing along to anything? Ask Alan anything in the world.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Ask Alan, the podcast. I'm Alan Crone, CEO of the Crone Law Firm. And we have with us today a special guest, Kent Phillips, who is with Trezevant Manor, a great facility in East Memphis. And we're going to talk about how he got to Memphis and what makes Trezevant Manor such a great place to live. Kent, thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's my pleasure. And one of the things I've really enjoyed about doing this podcast is I've got to meet a lot of people that frankly, I can't believe I haven't met. And you're in that category. You're so well known and you got such a high visibility position. I'm just surprised that our paths haven't consciously crossed in the past.
That's true. Likewise, and they're crossing now. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
That's right. Well, we were talking offline and you said that you actually grew up in Denver, Colorado.
I did. I born and raised in Denver, Colorado, did my undergraduate work in electrical engineering of all things at the University of Colorado, just up the street from Denver and Boulder. And meandered my way around through various occupations and found a love for senior living. And very short story, that brought me here to Memphis when I was in my early 20s. And I had never crossed east of the Mississippi River, had never been to the southeast of the country at all. And as a young 20-something-year-old, it was quite a culture shock to move from the Midwest to the Mid-South. But I have loved it. I've certainly become accustomed to it. I do not miss the snowy weather and the cold weather in Denver, Colorado at all. And was lucky enough to meet my wife here, who is a native Memphian. And therefore, I've been in Memphis for just over 30 years now.
Well, very good. Very good. I spent my birthday one year at the top of Pikes Peak,
yes,
which I guess is near Colorado Springs.
It is.
And my birthday is on July 20th, and it's the one and only time I experienced snowfall on my birthday.
That can happen in Denver during the winter. It's, I loved growing up in that part of the country where there was a more harsh or more definite change of seasons. There's a lot of romanticism around the snowfall and Christmas time and those kinds of things. But I can tell you, there was a day when I was in college and had to leave early for work, and I walked to the parking lot and it was minus 20 degrees and there was ice all over my truck. And something clicked in my brain, and I figured there were probably better places to live in this country during the wintertime. So when I got an opportunity to move to where snow is much more rare, I jumped on it. Now Denver is a place I love to visit. I love my family. I love to go see them. I'll even ski once in a while, but it is not a place I want to live permanently.
So does that make you a Broncos fan?
It does. It does make me a Broncos fan. And that's been a little difficult in the past 5 or 6 years. But I'm also a Titans fan. And even though I have no connection to the University of Memphis, my wife did get a postgraduate degree at the University of Memphis. So my son who is 17 years old, and I are very connected to Memphis sports. So we love to see the football games. We love to see the basketball games. And, while personally that's fun to go and see those games with my son. It is just fantastic to see what that school and that sports program has done for the city of Memphis. Yeah, it's really an amazing thing. It's really boosted the morale. Whether you're into sports or not, there's a level of energy and excitement that I think is just fantastic. So, yeah, I'll watch the Broncos, but as time goes on, I'm probably more a local fan.
Did growing up, and I don't know the timeline on the Nuggets very well, but did you grow up with the Nuggets?
I did. Actually, I have memories of going to Nuggets games actually when Larry Brown was coaching. And I do remember the merger of the ABA and the NBA. The Nuggets have had some rough patches as well, but they've had some sparks of light too. Of the three major league teams there, I'm probably more of a Rockies fan and a Broncos fan than I am a Nuggets fan. It's nice to be in Memphis where we have a professional basketball team, because I do love to watch the Grizzlies as well. So,
well, they say that if you grow up with the NBA, you're more likely to be, which I guess it makes sense. You're more likely to be an NBA fan than if you didn't.
Right.
I grew up with the basketball Tigers. And so I think as a result, I'm much more of a college basketball fan than I am an NBA fan, just because I understand the college game a lot better than I do the NBA game.
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting you say that. I first of all, I think you're right. I grew up with an NBA team, so I was more of a professional basketball follower than I was a college follower until we had the opportunity to live briefly in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina. And of course, right there, you're in the heart of ACC with Duke and UNC and NC State. And, that experience living right there and seeing some of those games and kind of learning more about the ACC really kind of switched in my brain. I'm now much more a college basketball fan than I am an NBA fan. For all the right reasons, for the excitement, for the intensity of the game. It's a different product and a whole lot more fun to watch.
Well, we're fortunate in Memphis that we got both. We've got the Grizzlies and we've got the Tigers, and Ole Miss not too far away if that's
right.
your cup of tea. So it's not the Research Triangle that Raleigh-Durham is, because that's the gold standard. That may be the platinum standard for college basketball if you're being real.
Yeah,
that must
true.
Be great to live.
But I'm like everyone else. I'm rooting for Penny to compete admirably against those teams, and I think we have a really good shot of being right there up there with the elite teams this year and in the near future. So, once again, pretty exciting for our humble little city here. I think it's terrific.
Yeah, it really is a fun time to be a sports fan in Memphis, no doubt about that.
It is.
And well, let me ask you this. You said something in the lead up there that I thought was very interesting. You said that early in your career, you got a passion for senior living and working in that area. Tell me about how you go from electrical engineering to having a passion for senior living, which sounds awesome.
I can tell you that being, you start a major in college, and I had gotten so far along in that major, even though in my senior year, I pretty much knew in my heart that I was never going to work a day as an engineer. And that pretty much happened. I never really, getting the major was, getting the degree was fine. And it just wasn't in my heart to do that kind of work. I can't explain why. I don't know why. It really doesn't matter. But actually all through college, I proudly worked my way through college, and I did that mostly in the restaurant business. And I had worked my way up in a chain of restaurants based in the Denver area at the time, and had become a regional manager and was doing pretty well in the food service field. And so I went from college to food service, and I worked in restaurants for a long time. Actually, it's an excellent background to what I do now, in terms of the hospitality industry and really understanding what makes people tick, and forming positive relationships and providing a good service and things like that. But, it also gave me, working in the restaurant business gave me an appreciation for people that work in food service and those who have been in it a long time. That's a grueling, thankless job, especially at the management level. A lot of hours, a lot of pressure. Maybe burnout is too strong of a word, but I think at some point after 5 or 6 years of doing that, I knew it wasn't going to be a long-term career for me. So I was, as I said, I was in my early 20s. I knew I wasn't going to be in the restaurant world. So I literally just quit and took a little bit of time off. I couldn't take too much time off because I didn't have much money, but I took a little bit of time off, and I answered a job I answered an ad in the newspaper to become an accounting clerk at a retirement community in Denver, Colorado. A new concept at that time, which looked a lot like Tresvent. But I got the job, started working for, I believe it was $4.75 an hour, and immediately fell in love with the concepts. I fell in love with the residents that I was able to interact with every day. I became enthralled with how the financing of senior housing properties works, and I just kind of narrowed my focus to a finance career in senior housing, and was eventually promoted to the CFO of that community in Denver, Colorado. That community happened to have a management contract with a firm based in Memphis, Tennessee. And that firm promoted me to be a regional finance specialist and moved me to Memphis, Tennessee. And from that point on, I was largely a consultant in this field. So I consulted with a lot of properties that looked like Tresvent. And, it was a blessing because I was able to see a lot of different retirement communities in a lot of different states, a lot of different metro areas. Gave me exposure to ways of running the business that I could have never been exposed to had I not been in that consulting world. And I did that for a long time. I can tell you though that being a consultant is not always glamorous. It's not always fun. Many times you're brought in as a consultant because something is horribly wrong at a community. So you're brought in to fix what's wrong. And in the process of fixing what's wrong, you're not always the hero. Sometimes you're the heel. But a common theme that I noticed being a consultant in senior living was that I was always jealous of the people who worked on site. Particularly the management teams who were able to interact with their residents and really influence their lives and get immediate feedback from them. It's just a passion that either clicks with you or doesn't. And it clicked with me. So I was patient, and I waited for my opportunity to really exit the consulting world and become an operator. That largely happened with the position that I had immediately prior to coming to Tresvent. But being raised here in Memphis and having a passion for this business, and in the consulting world, a little bit about a lot of communities, and I knew something about Tresvent, and it's quite well known, not only in Memphis, but in the senior living business, that that Trezevant is a pretty unique place. It has a pretty unique culture, and has a very, very wonderful resident population who's very engaged, and that just makes it for a fun place to work. A very gratifying place to work. And so when the opportunity came along for me to be, I was hired as the chief operating officer here at Trezevant, but within 6 months I became the CEO. And I can just tell you, Alan, it's just such a blessing. I've loved it ever since. I'm the lucky one that gets to be in this job. I truly love working with these residents. My staff is great. Memphis, by and large, is very supportive of what Trezevant is and what Trezevant does. So that's what brought me to where I am, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, since you've been in the industry for a number of years, what do you think are the biggest changes in the industry since you started to now?
There's a lot to talk about. First of all, there is the world of intensive healthcare is changing quite a bit. For many, many years, historically, senior living comprised pretty much of independent living and a nursing home. So really the two extremes of care in senior living. Bless you.
Excuse me.
What has occurred over the last 3 or 4 decades is kind of a parsing of care. And so you have the introduction of concepts like assisted living, which bridges the gap between independent living and high intensity nursing care. And then specialty units, memory care units, which focus on dementia related problems. And, each of these programs have kind of developed in and of themselves. And what you see being developed now, you certainly see it in the Memphis area, are a lot of standalone products that address each of those levels of care, each of those needs. Where Trezevant is different, and where I think, you see less development of continuing care products like Trezevant is, where all of those services are available in a single package on a single campus. I think that's important for a lot of reasons, but you don't see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of new construction like that. There is one going up here in the Memphis area. It's the Farms at Bailey Station in Collierville, but that's pretty rare in markets today. So that's one trend. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I think as these standalone products are built, that requires families to make decisions at multiple times as their parents age. You might move them into a facility which focuses solely on independent living. But then as they age and need more supports, then you've got to look at things like assisted living or memory support. And then as their health declines, you may need to look at yet another move into a nursing home. Whereas a place like Trezevant, we have that built in. And in fact, that's the product we sell. We sell something called Life Care, which helps the family plan for all of those age-related transitions. And you're making one decision. What level of when the additional levels of support are needed, right where mom or dad are going to go. It's going to be right here on this campus. It's a very unique product. It is expensive to build. There are a lot of barriers to entry to do something like this, but as the field develops and becomes more myopic at each level of care, I think you're going to see more and more of these standalone products being built. So that's one trend. I think what we're seeing now is we are seeing waves of average age of residents as they move in. We will go through cycles where it appears to be getting younger and younger. People are making choices earlier in their retirement to move into a place like Trezevant, and we'll see this in waves. But then when something external hits, like the recession in 2007, 2008, or COVID-19 this year, you see sort of a halt in that progression, and people wait to see what's going to happen. And so they're aging in their homes. And then for a while, we will see a bubble of older residents moving in. Older to us would be, mid 80s, where younger would be late 70s. So those are some of the trends. I think you're also seeing on the healthcare side. I think everyone has an awareness of this, that as hospital costs increase, you are seeing lengths of stay in a hospital drop from what historically had been weeks to days to now hours. And those individuals who are, going through a crisis and have a very, very short stay at a hospital then come to us. And so nursing homes are becoming far more acute than they used to be. And assisted living is kind of filling in the gap of what a nursing home used to be. So at each level of care, you're seeing a higher intensity of care required. I know that's a mouthful, but those are the kind of trends we're seeing.
What about demographic trends? For someone like me who's kind of close to this, but not really involved in it as you are every day, I hear about the baby boomers and the aging of America and that sort of thing. How do you see those demographic trends affecting your industry, not just now, but as that baby boom, surge comes off on the back end? How are those demographic changes affecting you, or are they affecting you?
They're not affecting us yet. I am a boomer. I am at the tail end of the baby boom generation. So you might be in there with me. You might be a little younger. You're probably a little younger. But we have been waiting for the bubble to hit this industry. And I do still think it's coming, but we've known about it for at least 2 decades now. And I think there has been a rush to, build product, to actually build real estate in order to house individuals. And I think that's a good thing. You're also seeing a trend that, the assumption is that people, particularly boomers, might want to stay at home and choose not to move into a residential environment like Trezevant. That's kind of a different subject, but I'm not sure that that's such a good idea, because so many studies have shown that, of all the various forms of healthcare that you can receive in your aging years, socialization in and of itself has the highest correlation with quality of life, and the ability to remain independent as long as you possibly can. There are just many, many studies that really point to that correlation. And, I understand that people want to remain in their own home, but as you age, remaining in your own home means more and more isolation, more and more loneliness, lack of access to socialization, and, really a declining quality of life because of all that. So, you might expect me to think that living at a place like Trezevant is a good idea since I run it. But I really do believe that, what you give up to move to a place like Trezevant in terms of your house and your yard is easily made up for the, call it holistic health benefit of living in a very social environment. So
I tell you, from a support standpoint, another benefit that at least personally I felt like we got when my in-laws went into a facility, and they of course got the socialization and everything you're talking about was good for them. But I felt my wife and her brother also got the ability of consulting with the staff to help make decisions, whereas before they were kind of making them on their own and they didn't have any advice or support from professionals. And I think that's a big benefit for the people who are caretakers, loved ones, being able to get some objective advice on how to navigate everything from healthcare decisions to whether or not to take the car keys away from someone who can't drive anymore. Those kinds of decisions. I thought it was very valuable to have the advice of people who'd been there, done that, and they wouldn't say this is what you should do, but they could say here's some things to consider. And I thought that was very helpful.
It is, and that's a critical part of what we do here at Tresvant is to manage that transition process. Not only for our families, but in cooperation and in agreement with our families. And it's one of the most difficult things we deal with, because over time, as our residents are interacting with our staff, in a lot of cases on a day-to-day basis, and what we see and what we experience, we know a lot more about those residents than their own family does in terms of what happens on a daily basis. So sometimes it can be, there can be some difficult conversations. I think at the end of the day, I think our families are very, very appreciative of the transition team that we have in place and the procedures that we have to kind of monitor individuals and get them in the appropriate level of care. I do think that they are very appreciative of that. And again, I would say, while standalone communities can have some sort of function like this, it's a little different here, because in a lot of ways, when a resident moves in with us, we're accepting each other for life, truly. And so we have a much better appreciation of wanting that resident to be cared for in the right environment and getting the right supports. And thankfully, we have those supports on campus. It may be in a different building, it may be in a different apartment, it may be at a different level of care. But the family made the decision early on and doesn't have to worry about the move. We do that. We handle that for them. Of course, we don't do anything that the family doesn't want to do, and we do everything in cooperation with them. But it is a part of the value proposition that we offer, that we're truly watching after your parents for the balance of their lives. That's what we do. That's part of, if you appreciate that, you really have a passion for this industry. And so we certainly do here.
Well, my impression as a lifelong Memphian, I've always known about Tresvant as long as it's been around. And tell us a little bit about the history of the facility, and particularly how it always seems like to me that it's always been on the cutting edge of whatever's going on in this industry.
We are, there is a name for what we do now. There are a couple of acronyms that describe what we do. One of them is CCRC, Continuing Care Retirement Community. Another one is LPC, Life Plan Community. They both mean the same thing. Basically, you move in and you can age in place, and we have all the supports for you. When Tresvant was first opening in December of 1976, there was no CCRC in Memphis. I'm not sure the term even existed at that time, but we were the first in Memphis. Reading back through the minutes, there was a great deal of struggle trying to understand exactly what we were trying to do. A lot of people got together with good hearts, and one of those was a gentleman named E.H. Little, who is pretty well known historically here in Memphis. Became the chairman and CEO of Colgate Palmolive. And was an Episcopalian. And so, there was a group of Episcopalians that got together and wanted to create a retirement community to serve, their group of families. And E.H. Little at the time gave I believe, $1 million to the effort, a little bit more than that, equivalent to probably, I don't know, 40 million today, something like that. So a large sum of money to get the building built. Interestingly, we're called the Tresvant Episcopal Home. There is no real connection to the Episcopal Church beyond that initial founding. But we are true to our roots as a faith-based organization. Today, we welcome all faiths. We have a very, very strong spiritual program, which includes programming from all faiths. So we are very proud of that. But historically, so they built the tower. So initially, the 11-story tower that you see at 177 North Highland was all we were. And it quickly became apparent, well, if you're going to sell this thing called life care, and you're telling people that you're going to provide for them for the balance of their life, you better have a nursing home. Surprisingly, that was not contemplated on day one. That was figured out after people started moving in. So again, this is 40 years ago. So we built a nursing home. And actually, we just built a single level nursing home. And if you look at our nursing home today, it's 3 stories. That single level worked well for about 5 years. And then they figured out they needed to build more and had no land. So they built the second and third story on top of the first story and didn't shut down the operation at all, which is fascinating. It's why our nursing home has the architectural shape that it does today. Some would say ugly. I would say it's a building with character. But anyway, that's what we were for a while. It became apparent in the early 2000s that we needed to reposition our campus and refresh the campus. And so we were blessed to have access to some adjacent land just west of us. And so we tripled the size of our resident population and inventory, tripled the size of our staff, tripled our land footprint, and largely became what we are today. But we're a nonprofit organization. We've been nonprofit since day one. We've had a terrific set of governors on our board of directors really since day one. And I would argue we've got a fantastic set of board of directors today. We have a terrific foundation that was formed, I believe, in 1985, but it's a pretty robust foundation, also with great leadership and supports the activities of Tresvant where necessary. But in terms of a history of the organization, that's kind of where we are today.
Well, I understand you've got a very high ratio between residents and employees.
We do. It's a bit unusually high for our business. There are a couple of reasons for that. One of that is just simply mathematical. We have a big concentration of our employees who work in the more intensive care levels in our assisted living building and in our nursing home. And as far as communities like Tresvant go, we have a relatively large healthcare operation. So we have a lot more employees per resident than the typical CCRC would have. But I would also tell you that we have as a part of our mission to provide the best care possible, and certainly the best care in Memphis. And I think we do that. And I think our board understands this. I think our management understands this. I think the community understands this, that, this is a person-to-person care. We don't build widgets. We care for individuals. And if you're going to care for individuals, that takes people. And so, we have a lot of staff working here, but we also provide the best service in town. And I don't say that to boast. I say that with an element of pride. And I say that from the respect that Tresvant's reputation was here long before I got here. So it's my job just to keep that reputation in place. And one way to do that is by having enough very experienced, compassionate people around to care for our residents. So,
Well, one part of the Trezevant reputation is its residents' involvement in the community and the vibrant, not just community life that's there, but social life. How do you as an institution go about ensuring that I know it's not effortless. I know that you have to be intentional about providing those opportunities for your residents. Tell me a little bit about how that works.
You know, we're very intentional about the kind of social programming that we have in place. You know, I'd focus on a couple of things. Number one, we're pretty proudly faith-based. You know, maybe we don't talk about that as much in our advertising as maybe we should, but as I told you, it takes a lot of people to provide service to our residents who are going through some difficult times in their life and coming to grips with their own mortality, with their own aging. You know, I think hand in hand with that process, I think you have to have a very strong spiritual program. So we're a little different than our peers here in Memphis, Tennessee. That again, we're proudly faith-based. We employ 2 full-time chaplains and have a very robust volunteer group of our residents who serve in our chapels and help with services and you know, help with one-on-one nurturing and care. You know, so that's a very intentional effort to kind of you know, have that level of care available when people are really struggling with where they are in life. That's not only for our residents, but it's for our families and it's for our staff as well. We believe very strongly that since we have this spiritual program, why not let our staff tap into that as well? So, you know, that's kind of the spiritual component that I think is important. It makes us a little bit unique. I think that, you know, our programming in general is top notch. Kim O'Donnell is our director of resident services on the independent living side, and she really understands this business well. And she and her team and people like Margaret Morton, who is our certified recreational therapist who works with our residents in the healthcare areas. I think the combination of that team providing, you know, a set of social activities that are very, very targeted to residents where they are in life, you know, their individual level of care, you know, be it social, vocational, academic, spiritual, you know, every aspect of social programming we try to hit on, and we try to improve that every day. You know, I think that does pay off, and it does create. First of all, our residents bring to us a desire and a certain social context that, you know, we want to maintain and we want to nurture. But, you know, a lot of it is just the residents that we attract, which, if I may go off on a tangent, it's a bit of an interesting time under COVID-19 because we are all about socialization and engagement. And during COVID-19, those are bad words. You know, we are telling each other not to be close and not to socialize in the traditional ways that we're used to socializing. So, you know, like everyone else, we have had to learn to adapt and, you know, use technology to the extent we can and limit interactions as much as we can. But again, it's that, you know, our programming really revolves around that socialization. You know, the other point I'd like to make is that the volunteerism that exists here on this campus is just tremendous. And our residents, I meant to have these statistics available, but it is several hundred of our residents regularly volunteer, not only for programs that we have in-house, but to the greater Memphis community. We've done you know, several feeding opportunities with the Memphis Food Bank called Seniors Helping Seniors. and where our seniors actually fund and put together boxes of a month's supply worth of food that we then give to seniors who in some cases are living in less fortunate circumstances and may not have the funds available to get, to carry them through the month. And so that's how our Seniors Helping Seniors program works. And we've had many residents involved in that. We've had a program where we have a bunch of teachers here, a bunch of retired educators with time on their hands. And so our residents actually formed a group to mentor refugees. And we have been doing that for a number of years. And that's a wonderful opportunity, not only to give experiences to those refugees coming in and teach them a valuable resource that they need to live in life, but it's also a wonderful opportunity for our residents to socialize and remain stimulated. Alan, I'll quit talking, but those are just some, just the tip of the iceberg of some of the opportunities that are available here for, residents to stay active, to stay connected, to interact, to provide good for not only Tresvant, but for the greater Memphis community. It's part of our nonprofit mission, and we really take that seriously. That as a nonprofit, you're given certain things from the community, and you're expected to give back to the community, and that's one of the ways we do it. So,
y'all do a great job.
Appreciate it.
Well, let me ask you this: since you brought up COVID-19, how's everybody doing at Tresvant? I know all of us are in our own way fatigued by the situation, but how are your residents doing?
Under the circumstances of anxiety and uncertainty, we're actually doing quite well. I have the pleasure of working with a team that was tailor-made for this situation. Gentleman by the name of Paul Martin is our director of health operations. Paul runs all of our healthcare. Paul has a master's in health policy. Right after we had our first case in late March, I think it was, here in Memphis, Tennessee, the only thing that I personally did was to appoint Paul to tackle this. And I have stayed out of the way and just watched the magic happen. But Paul immediately got a group together of about 15 individuals, mostly management, but also team members of all the components of everything we do here on campus. And we started meeting daily as an infection control team or as a COVID-19 response team. And really put in place a set of policies and procedures to deal with the infection early on. I just couldn't be any prouder of what they were able to put into place early on. I'm also real proud, if I can be so bold to say, I'm proud of our residents in terms of their willingness to listen to what we have to say, to be very compliant, with everything that everyone knows now. But in the beginning, masks, 6 foot distance, washing your hands and all that. A lot of these new policies were difficult to mandate, but a lot of compliance at every level from our staff, from our residents, from our families. Some of the procedures that we put into place early on were very controversial and far ahead of the health department mandates and the various executive orders from, county, city, and state. But I really feel like we had the right team in place to do it. And it built us a great level of confidence. I think among the senior living providers, that would be nursing homes, assisted living facilities, other CCRCs, I think we held out the longest with no infection. As time went on and it was clear that COVID-19 was not going away, eventually, like everyone else, we did see some infection, but the procedures we put in place, namely the screening procedures, our testing, we very, very aggressively test our staff and resident volunteers and residents as needed. And we were the first in Memphis to create an isolation unit in our rehabilitation center in our Allen Morgan nursing home. So we had that isolation unit in place, really as a proactive measure in case we did see active spread on our campus. But it was also a brilliant way to bring new members into our campus and isolate and watch them and make sure that they're COVID-19 free before they move into the general population. So, all of that worked very well. The infection control team really did all that. We're still meeting. We're still going through this because we're not fully opened up yet. But we are getting there. We've been infection free any way you measure it for some time now, which is to say, yes, we see little pockets. We see individuals coming up with a positive test, but through our contact tracing procedures, we are able to isolate them right away and get them either at home or in our isolation unit or whatever the case may be in order to get them in a protected environment so we don't see any spread. So, that's how we've dealt with it. But we're not here yet, but there will come a time when, patience will start to wane, and we're trying to balance that as a team, and we're trying to open up as quickly as we can. We do now allow visitation. We have opened up our dining programs back up. We're doing a little bit more social activities where and when we can. We're trying to keep the balance in place to try to return to some sense of normalcy while still adhering to the local mandates from the mayor and from the Shelby County Department of Health. So, by and large, I just went through an orientation with some of our new staff earlier this morning, and what I told them, I do truly believe that on our little 14-acre campus, inside our gates, inside our walls, this is one of the safest places you can be in Memphis, Tennessee right now. So I do truly believe that. And, again, I'm just honored to be a part of the team that's providing that. So,
have you identified any silver linings in all of this? Any practices, whether social or medical, that you innovated as a response to the virus that you think, oh, this really advances our mission. We're going to keep this no matter what happens with COVID.
I think in some ways it's a bit of a wake-up call. And, Alan, we have been on the CMS nursing home compare page. We have been a 5-star nursing home now for over a year, and we've been at 4 or 5 stars for the last 3 years. We recently earned the quality award from the American Healthcare Association at the silver quality level. I know that doesn't mean a whole lot to anybody who's not, deeply involved here, but that's a Malcolm Baldrige excellence program. And so, we're really working hard to evaluate ourselves, and, we're really using as many of these outside tools as we possibly can to keep ourselves honest and make sure that we're providing the highest level of care. And it's nice to receive some of these accolades, because I think the wake-up call is, at a moment of crisis like this, who rises to the call, and who rises to the occasion and provides that excellent care and bestows confidence upon our residents and our families. I really got to hand it to our healthcare team that they did that. So I hope that there's some memory in the Memphis community. I should knock on wood when I say this, but it's not me doing it. These are really accolades for my team. I hope there's some memory of how well we got through this event, the excellent care that we were able to provide, the confidence that we were able to give to our families, the safety that we were able to provide to them and our staff. I hope that kind of stays with us. I think there are some interesting things with respect to masks and distancing and some of these procedures that the general public has, been willing to adopt in critical times. And I'm not sure that you might not see a resurgence during annual flu seasons of wearing masks and distancing and putting in some of those things in place. And, I think it will be interesting to see how much of a flu season we actually experience this year, since we're all doing what we should be doing to minimize the spread of those germs anyway. So, I think it will be interesting. I do think that there are some, with respect to the technical side about how we run the business, and I think some of the things that the Department of Health, who oversees our licensing here on site, has learned. I think there will be in the annual survey process that allows us to keep our license. I expect that in that survey process, there will probably be far more attention paid to procedures surrounding infection control and general response to, flu pandemics and things like that. So that's just what I see in the near future.
Well, Ken, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your stewardship of Trezevant Manor and that whole campus. I think many, many Memphians are like me. They've had a relative or two or a dozen that have been residents there and enjoyed the care there. And we hope that it continues for many, many years into the future.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it. And I've loved this time chatting with you.
Well, thanks. And thanks for everybody on the audience. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, please share it or email it, however the case may be, with someone you think might enjoy it. Like and share us on social media and all that good stuff. And until next time, this is Alan Crone, CEO of the Crone Law Firm, thanking Kent and thanking you for watching and listening to Ask Alan.